Baseball is back, and at Team Toyota, savings and selection are back too. With tons of new Toyota SUVs, trucks, and hybrids to choose from, and with our lineup of over 200 certified used Toyotas, you can find the right fit for you and your budget. Plus, our service and collision centers are here to get you back in the game in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Oh, baseball is for sure back, baby. This is the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. I am Spencer McKercher, joined by Corey Seidman, still down in Clearwater. We're here so that we sit down and record this on Thursday, February 20th. Corey, a lot of good things going on. Last we talked was Monday. Since then, Trea Turner has made an appearance after the birth of his 3rd child. He reported on Tuesday, got his physical, and then was working out on Wednesday. Talked to the media on Wednesday, yesterday. A lot of good stuff from Trea, including maybe a potential move to the leadoff spot. What were your thoughts on his comments on a potential move?
Yeah, Trea Turner was the latest Philly asked about potential changes to the lineup. We talked to Bryce Harper, we talked to Kyle Schwarber as they arrived in camp last week. Turner came in. What is this today? Today's Thursday. So Turner came in to Clearwater on Tuesday, took his physical on Wednesday, and within a couple hours, he was already out taking ground balls with Bobby Dickerson. Turner, Rob Thompson has not made a decision as to who's going to lead off. There's a lot of time to go before the regular season. There's like another month, 6 weeks here. But all indications are that it's going to be Turner based on like the comments the Phillies are making, based on comments Schwarber and Turner have made. Part of it, as I said in the last podcast, is that the Phillies feel that it can be conducive to Turner getting back to the skill set he had previously, which is utilizing the whole field, being a bit more selective, not being as much of like a boomer bust power hitter. And I asked Trea Turner the other day something that I've been saying on the podcast, which is that there have been these binges of power that he's had, and they've been followed by like really down periods, prolonged down periods. And I asked him, like, when you're going so well from a power perspective, is it hard to remind yourself to remain consistent in your approach to utilize the whole field, to be more selective when you're getting pitches in the middle end portion of the plate and you're blasting them over the wall in left field? Like, you can see why it would get you to a point where, you feel comfortable and you get into a rhythm as that like pull side power hitter. But that's not what the Phillies want Trea Turner to be. They want him to be like a 300 hitter with a 360-ish on base percentage. That's the player he was for 7 years prior to signing with the Phillies. And that could be something that really pushes their offense forward. If he can get back to that version of himself, steal some more bases, and then all of a sudden you have like 3 big-time OBP guys in your top 4 spots between Turner, Schwarber, and Harper if it all works out.
Yeah, and he mentioned just how his approach could change if he does move into that leadoff spot, saying, when Bryce is behind him, he can see more pitches because, they're worried about Bryce. That's directly behind him in the order. And that approach could change. But then he said at the end of the day, if they score runs, they're fine. And however that is and however the lineup plays out, go ahead.
Well, he was saying that he was saying that in respect to stolen bases because like a reason that Trea Turner hasn't stolen more bases as a Philly is because a lot of times he's on first base and Bryce Harper's at the plate, and you don't want to risk running out of the inning. You don't want to take that hole between first and second base away from Harper. And so we asked him, well, if you're leading off and Harper's batting second, it's still the same scenario. You're still going to be on base in front of Harper. So like, how are you going to be able to steal more if it's still the same scenario? And Turner just basically said that this has been what his MO has been throughout his career, is that, yeah, he can steal more bases, but he's more so about scoring runs than stealing bases. He doesn't care about stealing 70 bases. He cares about scoring 100 runs. And that's the mentality the Phillies want him to have as well.
For sure. And, he said, he's not going to steal 70 to 80, but he is. He's 49 for 53 as a Philly. In 2 seasons, in regular seasons, as a member of the Phillies. So, that'd be great if we could see Trea kind of get back to what he's not really known for, I guess, but just a big aspect of his game. If we can get him to start stealing some more bags. Obviously, Bryson Stott stole a lot of bags last season as well. So, and I know that was kind of like a main talking point last spring training, was that they wanted to run more. And we saw them run a lot earlier in the season. Even JT had a few stolen bases. So we'll see if that's the kind of the same game plan going forward here in 2025.
And JT is excited to get back to that aspect of his game as well. I think he only had 2 stolen bases all of last season. compared to, I want to say JT had like 20-ish in the prior years. And, he talked about how that was because of the meniscus injury. His knee kind of limited him last season. And one of his favorite aspects of the game, which is flying around the base paths, I looked it up. His rate of going first to third or second to home, like taking that extra base on a single, if you look at the last 2 seasons compared to all the years prior, it's way down for JT over the last 2 years. So he hopes that as he's feeling better and potentially has less time behind the plate, that he can get back to that speed element of his game. Because, with JT Realmuto, it's not the bat, it's the all-around game. It's that he can hit, he can run, he can throw, he can call a game, he can defend, he can do all those different things behind the plate. And, it's spring training right now. Everybody's healthy. All the physicals checked out. So it's easy to sit here on February 20th and say, yeah, these guys are going to run wild. But then, nicks and bruises come up, and that can affect plans as well. But, they're not concerned about stolen base totals. They're just concerned about getting on base in front of their big bats.
Yeah, and score runs. Got to score runs is the name of the game. And hopefully the Phillies can do that here in 2025. Cord, just so far, obviously, we're 4 days into full squad workouts. What are some observations that you've seen? I know Bryce went yard against Christopher Sanchez the other day. I know Jesus Luzardo battled Aiden Miller today, and I think Miller got the best of him with an opposite field hit I saw. What are some other observations you've seen over the last 4 days then, just as big league camp kind of continues here?
Harper went deep off of Krismat, the guy that the Phillies are going to start on Saturday.
Got you.
Veteran reliever. That was kind of funny, though, because you have all these like little kids waiting for Bryce Harper to come out for live VP. He comes out and in his first at bat of live VP hits a home run. So, the most important part of spring training for a team like the Phillies is getting to the regular season healthy. It's not like winning a bunch of games or any of that. It's just making sure all your big guys are healthy to begin the season. And in that regard, the Phillies have gotten to their first checkpoint healthy. The Grapefruit League schedule is going to begin on Saturday, Phillies, Tigers, and Lakeland, and the first home game, the first televised spring training game on our air at NBC Sports Philadelphia, 1 p.m. on Sunday. But going into that game Saturday, it's about a 60-mile trip to Lakeland. The Phillies are going to bring over Max Kepler, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Rafael Marchan, Rodolfo Castro. Sounds like Weston Wilson. Nabel Krismat is going to start that game. He's a 30-year-old reliever, one of like a dozen guys fighting for that final spot in the Phillies bullpen. They're also going to pitch Alan Ronhell in that game, who's a starting pitching depth piece, who's probably going to begin the year of the upper minors. But spring training, you're kind of getting guys into games who are ready at that point. And just based around like live batting practice, guys who seem like they're nearing game action, I would think that we're probably going to see Joe Ross on Sunday or Monday, just based on the fact that I think he pitched live BP a day after Krismat did, and he came out of it okay. So, just based on that trend, it looks like we're going to see him pretty soon. But on Saturday, I'll definitely have my eye on, Stott and Kepler, two lefties facing Tigers veteran right-hander Kenta Maeda in their first at bat. That'll be a good little early spring test for them. And it's a big year for, it feels redundant to say that because you can say that for like every player on the roster, but for Stott, it's going to be a really big year for him because batting average decreased by 35 points last year. OPS was down by 70 points. He wasn't healthy, which he, finally admitted to us last week, or was it this week? Sorry, the days all run together. But, there's –
I don't know when it was.
You never – guys don't want to make excuses, but when you do hear something like that Bryson Stott was feeling pain every time he swung and missed at a changeup from June onward last season, it kind of does explain why the performance was so much different than it was the year before.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit on Monday's pod. It was good to hear because that drop was crazy, right? Like he started the year kind of slow, then started heating up in May. And then I went back and looked. I think it was that second game. It was like May 11th, I want to say. And it was the top of the ninth. They were up 8-1. He actually had an RBI triple in that game. And then he kind of gets fooled on a changeup and he kind of like half swings. And that's the time where you can see kind of mess with the elbow a little bit. And then he fouled off 2 more balls right after that. And when he fouled off the second ball, went down the first base line, he kind of like the camera zoomed in on him and he's just like messing with the elbow a little bit. So obviously speculating, but I think that could have been when it happened. And there was something different definitely about Bryson Stott in 2024, especially, as the season went on there. And hopefully we can see him kind of get out of that a little bit. And he did say that, he swung and missed at some balls in the batting cage the other day, and he said he felt fine. So hopefully all signs pointing good for that. Speaking of, I know you just kind of talked about it. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, it's just that, like, it's not only that, you feel pain when you swing, it's also that you start doing other things to compensate for that. Like, you start to alter your swing a little bit to not feel as much pain, or your approach changes a little bit. And that's all like a recipe for disaster when you're starting to think more up at the plate. And, you got to get back to the more instinctive, like, natural reactions. And that's what Bryson Stott's hoping to do in 2025. And lastly, just I didn't want to gloss over the fact that I mentioned that I think it's going to be Rafael Marchan making the trip to Lakeland on Saturday. He's another big guy to keep an eye on throughout spring, because he could very well be the Phillies' backup catcher. He could, if he stays healthy, he could end up amassing 175 plate appearances as JT Realmuto's backup this year.
Yeah, that's to be honest, dude, that's what I was going to say. The only plug, you plugged it earlier. NBC Sports Philadelphia will have 12 spring training games this spring, so keep an eye out for them. 7 of the games will be on NBC Sports Plus, and then the March 14th prospect game will also be on our air. So that's between the Phillies and the Pirates, the best prospects. We did not have it last year. I believe they played the Tigers last year, and it was in Lakeland, I want to say.
Yeah, it was a road game for the Phillies last spring. But, that'll be a fun game, because Phillies fans who haven't gotten to see a lot of Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford, Mick Abel, they'll see those guys. They won't see Andrew Painter because he's not playing in games, but they will see all the other guys.
That'd be cool. Yeah, Justin Crawford included, like you said. So that'd be great. Yeah, dude, I did. That was the other thing I wanted to hit on real quick, is just Rafael Marchan. You had a great article on NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, kind of just outlooking his, opportunity this year and how it could be the best opportunity of his career. Do you want to touch on that just a little bit more? And especially, that he's healthy. We've seen him battle some injuries over the last few seasons, especially in the minor leagues. But, this could be a big opportunity for Rafael Marchan this season.
Yeah, he's a 26-year-old catcher. He's entering what you figure to be like almost the prime years of his career. And he's battled so many injuries throughout his minor league career that have cost him development time. Back injury, shoulder, hamate bone, hamstring. A year ago at this time, Marchan was already kind of set back because he played in winter ball and he hurt his back. He suffered a lower back injury, so he didn't begin the season on time. Right around now, we were getting updates from Rob Thompson day to day about like why Marchan wasn't participating in camp, as compared to now, where he's been in Clearwater since January 6th. He's been here for 6 weeks. He arrived about a month before most of his, pitching and catching teammates. And the reason that Marchan has been spending so much time in Clearwater is because he wanted to make sure he was around the right people to keep his body in shape. He didn't want to, risk losing out on this opportunity because of health. He told me the other day that throughout a long season, he feels things in his shoulder and his back. He wanted to make sure that he was, strengthening the right areas, and he's in a good spot right now. He's been catching a lot of bullpens. Catchers are worked hard in spring training. These are long mornings for these guys. They're already here at 7 a.m. But by the time we get here, they're already working out, talking to pitchers. They're in meetings. Then they go out and they do catching and receiving drills. They catch BP. They catch live BP. They take BP. These are really long days that end for them about like 1-2 p.m. But they definitely sweat enough out and probably sleep well at night. But yeah, Rafael Marchan, the reason that it's kind of looking like he'll be the backup this year is the fact that he's out of options and can't be sent to the minors without first being passed through waivers. Garrett Stubbs, it's the opposite situation. He can be sent to the minors. If the Phillies were to try to sneak Rafael Marchan to AAA, he would definitely get claimed by another team because he's a young catcher with upside. Why wouldn't he? And this is a way to preserve depth. If you carry Marchan on the opening day roster, begin the season with Stubbs at AAA, say Marchan gets hurt or doesn't perform, you could always make a decision down the road potentially. But the Phillies want to sit JT Realmuto a little more, not have him play as much behind the plate. Garrett Stubbs has averaged 111 plate appearances per season as a Philly, which that's a tough job for him. That's like one at bat a week. So you can understand why he's not been a great offensive piece either. If you're getting not one at bat a week, one game a week, which is like 3 at bats a week. But Stubbs was at like 111 plate appearances per season. If you figure the Phillies want to get JT to like 115 or so starts, the backup catcher is probably looking at like 185 plate appearances. So that increases the need for more offense out of that spot. Yeah,
and what are your thoughts on Garrett? When he signed the contract that kind of gave him an extra option, right? I believe when they brought him back, and obviously he's an integral part of this clubhouse as we've seen over the last 3 seasons. I understand, obviously Marchan is the future, God forbid if JT gets hurt or whatever, but, do you think it'd be strange to see Garrett Stubbs in AAA, as the season kind of moves on? And, I'm sure fans I don't know if they'd be 50-50 on this decision, because obviously Marchan has been kind of the better offensive catcher over the last 3 seasons when he's got a chance to play, when he's not injured. So, like, what are your thoughts on just Stubbs possibly being in AAA?
I just think it's one of those difficult decisions that a team has to make to try to inch forward. Like, I don't want to make it sound like the only thing that Garrett Stubbs provides are the vibes, because that's not true.
No,
like,
it's not at all.
It's not like he's just like the guy who makes the playlist. There's a lot of stuff that Garrett Stubbs does in terms of like leading game planning meetings with pitchers and just talking to them constantly. And he's obsessed with the strategy and the cerebral aspect of the game. So there's a lot of value just in terms of like having an extra pitching coach or an extra coach in general in him. But, it seems to me like fans want Marchan. They want to see what the kid can do. Marchan has exceeded expectations offensively in a small sample size in the majors. And I don't expect that that's going to remain. Like he's hit, I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but
I think it's like 4 home runs, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5 home runs. He's pretty much hit for as much power in the majors as he has in the minors in way fewer plate appearances. But you figure that over a bigger sample size, as he gets exposed more, that's going to change with Marchan. But there's still more upside in his bat than we've seen out of Garrett Stubbs the last couple of years. And I will say that like Stubbs walking around this spring, he's still same type of like, personality, still having fun, but he seems like more serious. And I think that some of that is because, he just recognizes that things are a little different than they have been the last couple seasons as the Phillies try to make those roster decisions at the end of camp. And one thing that was kind of funny on Wednesday, the Phillies had their annual golf outing. I think it was Thursday. And so we're standing in the clubhouse and Rob Thompson walks in at one point, and Weston Wilson says to Rob Thompson, "Hey Topper, who you got on your squad?" And Thompson says, like, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Who you got on your squad?" And Thompson goes, Oh, the golf outing. And Weston Wilson said, "Yeah, what did you think I was asking you? Who was going to make the team?" And Rob said, yeah, I was going to say it was a little early for that. But Weston Wilson's one of the guys who's also on the bubble. I think he has a pretty good shot at making the team as a guy who can play left field, right field, first base, third base. He's played some shortstop in the minors, and they might work him out in center field as well. So not a ton of position battles, as we've been saying, but definitely a big camp for certain guys: Wilson, Cody Clemens, Buddy Kennedy, the catchers like Marchan and Stubbs, and then all those pitchers fighting for that final bullpen job.
Exactly. Poor Wes, man. I could see like the thought process going in and said, and that golf outing is awesome. We talked to some of the guys last year. Larry Bowen obviously made the hole-in-one, and Brandon Marsh's reaction that was on the Phillies YouTube page was so great. And there was a lot of trash talking when I was down there during that golf outing. So I'm sure we'll hear how it went. Yeah, I believe it was scheduled for today, so I'm sure we'll hear how it goes throughout the weekend. But
and then by the time we get back for another Phillies Talk podcast, there will have been games played, actual spring training games played. As we said, Saturday against the Tigers is the first one. Sunday's the first televised one, and then several more home games that following week. And then you'll start to see like all the big guys in games like Turner and Real Muto and Harper start to trickle into games. Probably not going to play a ton at the beginning of camp, but as camp progresses, they'll get more and more opportunity.
I can't believe that they're getting ready to play games, dude. This is, I feel like the offseason kind of went by slow to a point, and then all of a sudden January, like middle of January, I was like, oh wow, here we go. So
everything from the winter meetings on has felt pretty fast. The first 6 weeks were slow, and then everything since then has felt pretty fast.
It's crazy, man. That's, by the way, that's the first That's Crazy. I just want our listeners to know. There was a comment. I said it 8 times. There's a drinking game. I've been aware today. That was only the first one. Thank you. Last things, I guess I kind of dressed like Alec Bohm today. For the listeners, I'm wearing my beanie because it is 20 degrees up here and the wind chill is insane. But was it a little chilly down there today? I saw Bohm was kind of like, I think Destiny Legardo posted a picture of Bohm kind of all bundled up. Or I guess maybe it was Gelb, I think. Actually. Yeah,
comparatively so. I mean, it was like 57 when I woke up, and it was like low 60s today this morning at camp. But the first week I was down here, it rained one time in 7 days, which is not common for Florida. But it looks like next week's going to warm back up again to like the mid 70s. So by the time Phillies fans start making the trip down for games, it's going to be nice and sunny. Sounds like it's a lot different than it is back home right now.
Dude, I'm done with it. I'm ready for Phillies baseball to come back up here, start to warm up a little bit. The winter blues are kind of kicking in, especially when it's 20 degrees. But daylight savings time coming around. So, dude, yeah, you mentioned a lot of good games are starting here. So we'll talk to you guys next week then, after the first few games of spring training and at Baycare Ballpark and on the road. As Corey mentioned, they start in Lakeland on Saturday. Should be fun, man. So, looking forward to talking to you guys next week after we see some action here from these guys. But until then, have a good weekend. Core, be safe. And, we'll catch you guys next time.